Hello. Hi, Jessica. Hi, Terry. Thank you for joining. Wonderful. We're going to start. So I'm Alejandra. I think I also led a dance therapy class a couple of weeks ago, if I'm not wrong, or maybe a week ago. And so thank you a lot for joining today. As we've mentioned before, these sessions are really for you, a moment to relax, to do something different, to have the space to express yourselves in different ways, whether that is through dance, yoga. In this case, is going to be through storytelling. So besides working, I was an educator actually for 7 years, a bilingual educator. But besides doing that, I'm a writer. And I wanted to share briefly for a couple of minutes just why I'm a writer, because it connects kind of to being an educator. I grew up in the border of Juarez with El Paso, Texas. And unfortunately, I grew up in a place that had very high rates of crime and violence, and kind of growing up in a space where I would feel a lot as a young girl, but didn't know how to express it, was dealing with those emotions that I know a lot of my students later on had. And I found poetry when I was around 10 years old. And since then, that was my space. That was my safe space. That was what I always did and still do today. Writing is always kind of that outlet. So today we're going to talk a little bit about that, about our stories. We're going to do some exercises, some writing, some more of mindful looking around and everything. And hopefully you have a nice experience just writing and relaxing. Good. So I would love if you could share, just like think about this. You can unmute yourself and share if you'd like, or you can just drop it in the chat. And this is just a very simple question that I would also do with my students a lot. And that is, what was your favorite meal growing up and who prepared it? You can drop it in the chat or unmute yourself. And my example, I really loved mole growing up. Mole is this like food that we have that has a lot of different things like chocolate and spice, and my grandma used to make it. So that's kind of why it is my favorite meal.
Sorry, I'm just finishing my lunch. I love mole so much.
Nice.
I wish I had that growing up, but I didn't have it very much. But my favorite, my mom would make something, she calls it kielbasa thing. And it's so simple. It's like onion, potato, kielbasa, and broccoli. And that's it. And I don't know, for some reason that was it. And I'm vegan, but I make it with like fake kielbasa sometimes. So, yeah.
Oh, that sounds great. Thank you for sharing.
I'm gonna say chorizo con huevos. And my mother, she didn't. Well, I'll just leave it at that. It was always on Saturday. Always on Saturday. But occasionally she would do breakfast and eggs, but chorizo con huevos absolutely every Saturday.
Ooh. Thank you, Terry. I love chorizo con huevo too. Yes. Oh, and Kimberly, hi, welcome. We are sharing. We're just talking about stories and how this session is going to be a lot about just reflecting about who we are and expressing ourselves. And so the question that we're answering, and you can drop it in the chat or you can unmute yourself if you'd like, but we're just talking about our favorite meals growing up and who prepared them for us.
That's a tough one because my mom didn't really cook. So we did a lot of takeout, and it's funny, she made this lemon chicken a lot, which wasn't really good. And she made it for this when I was back in town this Christmas. And it was better, actually. I don't know what she did, but she was kind of just as a joke, she made the lemon chicken for all of us because she knows she really can't cook. So it was funny. But yeah, that would be the meal.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, my mom wasn't too much of a cook either, my grandma. But okay, and I see, let me see in the chat, we say, I'm not sure I have a favorite meal, but I would go to my grandparents after school every day. My grandmother would make dinner at 5:30 p.m. every day. Eating out was a reward and something special. So we had home cooked meals daily growing up. Love that. And very specific about the time. And I think that's like the beauty of stories. And I really like this exercise because we all, if you saw in a way, we all focused in different things, whether who it was, whether at what time, which day. And I think that's the beauty of like stories and storytelling, that stories are going to look different because we experience things differently. So it can be one activity, but the perspectives are so different that thank you for sharing that. So now we're going to do a mindfulness practice. And this is also connected to storytelling, because I find that I wouldn't say I'm like a wonderful like expert, you know, but like I write a lot. I really enjoy that way of expressing myself, and the way that it really helps me when I'm writing stories or if I'm writing poetry is to really be mindful of my surroundings. And this is an activity that I would also do with students, and if you ever want to share it with them. And this is the 5 senses practice. So if you can just find like a comfortable position, you can have your feet maybe flat on the ground. I always say kind of like imagining that there's someone like pulling a thread up from like the top of your head, finding your shoulders relaxed. And we're going to take a deep breath in through our nose, out through our mouth. Deep breath in. Deep breath out. Breathing in through your nose. And out through your mouth. Now, with your eyes open, just going to invite you to notice 5 things that you can see right now. What are 5 things that you can see? And we don't have to share them or anything. Just take a moment to notice. What are 5 things that you see? I see a banana peel because I need to clean this desk. I see my tea. Just take a moment to notice those 5 things. Maybe it's something that you don't notice that often, but that you're taking a moment to stop now and look at it. Just 5 things. And once you're done, we take a deep breath in. Out. Now let's take a moment to notice 4 things that we can hear. It can be something in your house. It can even be inside of our bodies. What are 4 things that you can hear? I notice the computer sound, and always just noticing them for what they are, sounds, without judgment. Now we notice 3 things that we can feel or touch. You can touch them if you'd like. And just notice those 3 things. Are they rough? Are they smooth? Are they warm? Are they cold? Three things that you can feel. And just taking a moment to feel those things. Maybe sometimes we're constantly touching them, but we're not really stopping to feel and notice those different textures. Now, 2 things that you can smell. And if there's nothing nearby, maybe think about 2 things that you've smelled today. Maybe it was coffee. Maybe it was some type of food. Maybe you have something nearby and you can smell it, that's great. 2 things that you can smell. And going back to your breath, breathing in, breathing out. Taking a moment to feel the air coming in through your nose and coming out. And last but not least, one thing that you can taste. And that if there's something nearby that you can actually taste, that would be awesome. And if not, same thing. Thinking about something you've had today. Maybe something that you really liked how it tastes. What was it? Was it spicy? Was it sweet? Was it sour? One thing you can taste. And to end the practice, we're going to take 3 deep breaths at your own pace, just focusing on that, on the air coming in and out. In, out. Great, and when you're ready, you can just include everything around you in your awareness. Would anyone like to share anything you noticed? Maybe something that caught your attention that you were like, wait, I actually never pay attention to this, and now I saw it. Would anyone like to share? Drop it in the chat. And I can tell you an example. For me, I think the sounds are the most difficult ones, because now doing a lot of this virtual, when there are things happening outside of my window, I often get upset by it, because I'm like, why are they doing this right now? Exactly when I need to talk to someone, or the dog or my cat, my cat cries a lot for some reason. But I really like this practice because sounds are just sounds. Right. And when we move that judgment from sounds, we can actually practice being mindful even when those sounds are happening. And I try to do it even on airplanes when it's like loud and things are happening. I'm like, okay, they're just sounds. They're just there. So sounds are my biggest thing. Good. Please feel free to write it in the chat whenever you want. Okay. So now we're going to do some writing. I love quotes. I'm definitely a words person, and I love quotes in English and in Spanish. I'm always saying them, but I really like this phrase that I saw once in like a training that I had. And since then, like I constantly think about it as a storyteller. And that one says, if you tell people your opinion, they will listen to reply. If you tell people your story, they will listen to receive. And that really changed my perspective, right? Because sometimes you are talking to like say what you're thinking, and someone is talking to you and you're kind of waiting, like, I want to say what I do or how I do it. But when we take in that story, and I always go back to my students, I was connected to that. When you actually take that time to listen, you can connect, right? And that's where empathy kicks in. And when we're talking about wellness and social emotional learning and all of this, a lot of it is through connection. And so taking that moment to receive, that moment to listen, can build connection between not only the children, right? Not only our students, but also between us. So now we're going to do an activity, and you just need a piece of paper if you're using an iPad or whichever you prefer. And this is one of my favorite. This is like a storyline. Okay. And don't worry, we're only going to share what we feel comfortable with, or if you like. So this is more for you. but this is like my personal storyline. These are like 5 things in my life, 5 live events that really have impacted me. They are not really big. Some of them are simple, but they're meaningful to me. So if you see like my first one, I grew up in the border, that definitely shaped like who I am, how I think. Then the second one for me is becoming a dance teacher, because I was a dance teacher before I was an elementary school teacher. So that really kind of shaped how I saw kids and how much I love like working with them. Then moving to the US was definitely a big one for me, change where I live, the culture, everything. Teaching during a pandemic was difficult. Learned a lot, but also faced a lot of challenges. And then Imperfecta is my book. So that's definitely another big one about like sharing my stories and something that I always wanted to do. So we're going to take like 3 to 4 minutes to create our storylines. So make sure you can do it however you want. If you want to follow that type of circle and that shape up and down, you can do it. If you want to list them, that's up to you. But just take this moment to write and think about those 5 live events that have been meaningful to you. And I'll play some really relaxed music in the background. And please feel free to add as much details as you'd like. Here I just did like a quick outline, but you can even write why it was meaningful, who was there. Did it change maybe your perspective? Did it change something? Was it something that made you happy, sad? Just thinking about why is it meaningful to you? And we'll take like 1 more minute, 1.5 minutes. So yes, please feel free to write. And many times with writing, since this is not, this is something for you, I honestly, if I am writing something and then I don't know what else to write, sometimes I'll write like the same word over and over again until something else comes to me. And then I just kind of continue. And if you're ready, please feel free to give me a thumbs up. I'm a elementary school teacher, a kinder teacher, so thumbs up are my favorite thing. Thank you. Let me stop this, and we're gonna continue running some more, so you'll have more time. And if you like that music, that's bossa nova, just like instrumental. Okay, so well, we kind of did this. So let me see. Well, we're gonna take maybe just like 2 minutes for this one, so we also have time to share. But now, once we went through those five events, we thought about that storyline. Now we're gonna focus on one of them. We're gonna go a little bit deeper. So we're gonna think about impact, about how that impacted our lives. It can be good. Sometimes we think that it impacts life in a way that is not positive, but then it becomes positive later on. You know, things change. Then we're also going to write a little bit more about why is it important to you. Sometimes events that might seem simple to someone else might be really important to you because of something you believe in, what your mission is, what your passion is. And then the last one, what did you learn from that experience? We're going to take 2 minutes to write that. Just think about one of those events. These 3 prompts. Wonderful, and we're in our last minute. Just when you're done, you can put your pencil down. Now I'm feeling like a teacher back in my classroom. Ready? You can give me a thumbs up or just come back to the screen. Thank you. Good. So would anyone like to share about their event? Would anyone like to write maybe in the chat? It's up to you. This is, a space for reflection. But yeah, please feel free to share if you'd like. And if not, that's also okay. This is for you. Okay, so now for this one, it would be really helpful if we share a little bit, and it doesn't have to be really specific about the story, but more about the impact. And this is something about stories that can become really powerful. And that's kind of changing, talking from the I to the we. When we're talking about stories and specifically connecting through stories. And I love that quote. Like I mentioned earlier, I just love quotes. And that was a quote that actually inspired me to write my book. And that one said, the story we tell becomes the world we live in. And that, it really clicked with me because I realized that many times I didn't read my story, or I didn't read things that I wanted to read growing up. And when I write, I think a lot about even girls who are experiencing the same thing that I'm experiencing somewhere, and what would they like to read? Where would they like to see themselves, right? So if anyone would like to share maybe about like your story, why do you think, why would you share about your story? What's an important message behind your story? Or you could also share about that story. Why was it meaningful to you? How do you think they can connect to others? And I know it can be a complex question. And please feel free to answer any of those. So what's an important message maybe behind your story? I know for me, being like a dance teacher, whenever I share this session or whenever I talk about it, it seems really simple. But to me, being a dance teacher, after I had a knee injury, was what really helped me when I was experiencing depression for the first time when I was a young girl. And I never saw that until now, that I think, wow, when I became the dance teacher, that helped me through it, right? And maybe it can seem like something really simple in my story, but because of the impact that it had in me and my life, it's really meaningful to me, even though it seems as something not that big or impactful.
For me, one of my important life moments was finding theater. I did a lot of theater and drama growing up, and that was a great outlet for me to process emotions and be able to be emotional, because sometimes we're kind of taught not to. So that was a great experience for me.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. And I love theater too. So like, so happy to hear that. And I'm sure a lot of our like students or, you know, fellow colleagues or just people in our communities can connect to that, maybe in a different space, but people can definitely connect to having an outlet where they can be more of themselves. And like you mentioned, sometimes having emotions or being open about it, it's hard because of how we're perceived. And that's why I really love storytelling, because I think sometimes you can even tell stories without you being the main character, right? And you're still creating that impact. So let me see, I know I have something in the chat. Oh, okay. Finding refuge in nature. Well, and I love all those. So in the chat, they're writing about nature and never realizing how much it gave. Connection, peace, exercise, inspiration for art, friendships, environmental advocacy, escape, etc. Thank you. Thank you. And that's a great way to even connect words, right? Like that's writing. And that kind of goes to thank you so much for sharing. That kind of goes to my last slide. And like I said, like, you know, I'm a writer, I'm constantly writing, growing, trying to learn. But something that I've definitely learned and I do like to share is that, first of all, being authentic. Like I love that we all share from a lot of different perspectives, either from doing things to nature, to what helped us, to our outlets, to our connections to who we are, how we were growing up, because our experiences are valuable regardless of being different, right? Or where we come from or our experiences overall. We don't have to be perfect writers to share our story. That's why I'm so happy there are editors and people that work specific for that, because writing is just writing. Writing in any language form that feels right to you. And in the next weeks, I'm actually going to do a bilingual one if any of you are interested. And also like learning to listen to understand rather to respond. And I think that was great today. So yeah, we're at 3 p.m. And yes, so let me stop sharing. And thank you so much for joining me today. I had a great time listening to a little bit about your stories, and I hope that we can see each other soon.